Schwartz comes driving by on his bike. Says me and Flick and Bruner are going to a picnic. I says, a picnic? What do you mean a picnic? At night? I said, yep. They say there's a picnic down at the forest preserve. Let's go. So I get my bike out of the garage, an Elgin, in case you're curious. And I get out on the road behind Schwartz and Flick and Bruner, and we start pedaling off into that fantastic moon. Through this enormous swirling clouds of mosquitoes, dripping sweat behind us as we went, heading to the forest preserve. Just the first time I ever went to a picnic that was at night. Actually began at night. Well, we arrived at the forest preserve, and there was just a great big banner across the front, and it had a symbol on it. No letters at all. And we drifted down the gravel road. Down the gravel road we drifted, sneaking in. The heat, oh my God, that heat. And it was a kind of excitement. You know, going to a picnic at night. It was a quiet picnic. There was no band playing. And usually almost every, in fact, I would say without exception, every picnic we went to had some kind of a cockamamie band. Either it was the Greek-American accordion players, or it was a Dixie band. They always have Dixie bands. Once in a while, some of them would show up with a bunch of guys playing little round things. You know, that was the Croatian Americans. Little round things. And they had these puffy sleeves. You know, the guys with the black suspenders and all that. But this one had no band at all. Nothing. And we could see some lights through the woods up ahead of us. Kind of orange lights bobbing up and down. And then we saw. Are you ready, friends? Are you really ready? I couldn't believe it. There in front of us was a whole strange shifting mass. It looked like some mirage. There were little ones and big ones. I mean little ones about 3 feet high, maybe a foot high. And there were some big, tall, skinny ones. But they all looked alike. A great crowd of them. And they were moving past a long table that had the food out there. They had potato salad, in case you're curious. And it looked like boiled hot dogs. We didn't stay long enough to find out. I said to Schwartz, what the heck is that, Schwartz? Schwartz, it's the picnic. And Flick says, yeah, come on, let's go. See, Flick was the dill dog of the crowd. He was always ready to go, you know. If the tarantulas were having a picnic, he'd be there, you know. He didn't care. And Bruner says, I'm scared. I said, what is it? Schwartz says, it's the Ku Klux Klan. We were at the yearly picnic of the Ku Klux Klan. The KKK. Have you ever seen a crowd of Ku Klux Klanners moving around in the woods with their capes? Those long pointed hoods and robes with the 2 little black eyes, with the big cross on the chest. And there were some of them that had wild colors like red. Some of them were purple. They must have been big shots, you know. And there were little kids. Whole crowds of them. Getting plates full of potato salad. Somehow it's a little scary to think of a ghost eating potato salad. Makes it even worse. We just sat on our bikes for about 5 minutes and looked at the scene. And finally Schwartz says, let's get out of here. Flick says, oh, come on, they don't care. Schwartz says, no, come on, let's go. We're going to get in trouble. I don't like this. And Bruner's already crying. He's not saying nothing. And some guy started to look around with a flashlight, one of these guys with the long, high cape. We got on our bikes, and we pedaled like Billy be damned. over the gravel road, through the long, winding forest, under the great orange moon, surrounded by hordes of gray, moving, misty mosquitoes, until finally we are out on the superhighway. Out on the superhighway. Now, what can I tell you? What can I tell you? Not very much. Except to say that that is one picnic that I did not forget soon. I remember it vividly. I remember those white, curious, they look gray in the dark light of the moon. Those curious white, gray shrouds. It looked like almost like a fantastic conclave of evil spirits, which is, I guess, what they wanted to look like. Oh, and one thing. The light. How they lit the scene. They had a huge cross that was burning. Actually, a burning cross. Have you ever seen a burning cross? You haven't? You've heard of it. Listen, hearing of it ain't the same as seeing it. That's like hearing about King Kong. It ain't the same. And so we're riding back on our bikes in absolute silence. Somehow that whole picnic scene had changed. I had no idea what the Ku Klux Klan was. I just, I'd heard the name, that's all. Just like most of you. I just heard it. And I came home about 10 o'clock. Went up the steps. Into the kitchen. There's my mother. My old lady, see. She is leaning over the sink in her Chinese red chenille bathrobe. The rump sprung hanging there with the petrified egg on the lapel. Her hair's up in curlers. And I felt very strange about this thing. This is really a scary experience. I walk into the kitchen. See, I've had nothing to eat, This is one night I didn't score, Walk into the kitchen, see, and I open up the refrigerator, and there's a half a meatloaf in there. So I take the meatloaf out, start to make a sandwich. My mother's hanging over the sink. My kid brother's under the daybed whining. The old man's sitting in the front room in his underwear, drinking some beer, which is what he always did when he was sitting around in his underwear in the middle of August. So I'm making a sandwich. The old man is sucking the beer. The kid brother's under the daybed whining. All of a sudden, I don't know how, I never, I'm a grown-up now, and I can't do it. But when I was a kid, grown-ups had a peculiar thing like this. My mother suddenly turns and says, "What's the matter?" I said, "Nothing, nothing." She says, "What's the matter?" "I won't tell your father." I said, "Ma, what's the Ku Klux Klan?" Clank. She dropped the fork she was drying. She said, "What was that?" I said, "What's the Ku Klux Klan, Ma?" She said, "Where did you hear that?" I said, "Oh, I just heard it." She said, "You stay away from that. Don't you ever have anything to do with those people." I said, "Why?" She said, "Just don't."